Takeaways from number 2 Alabama's loss to number 1 Auburn. The road villains got a taste of their own medicine Saturday. Number 1 Auburn showed why it held on to the top ranking in the country, holding off any Alabama advances and defeating the Crimson Tide 94-85 inside Coleman Coliseum. Alabama was unable to generate a big run typical of a Nate Oates side or muster the shooting required against an elite 2A Tigers team. Auburn kept up its steady play on both ends, and while Alabama showed improvement in areas Oates was calling for, it couldn't find the offensive production to match, leading to a road victory for the Tigers in the first-ever matchup between two SEC teams ranked number 1 and number 2. Here are 3 takeaways from Alabama's loss to Auburn. Advertisement. Shooting becomes the separator. For all of Alabama's physicality on both ends and its ability to take care of the ball early in the game, the Tide was unable to truly capitalize on its effort. The red-hot shooting that ignited Alabama against Texas in its last game fell by the wayside Saturday, and against a team like Auburn, ultimately sunk Alabama's chances. Auburn, which ranked number 17 in adjusted defensive efficiency, coming into the game lived up to its credentials Saturday. The Tigers stifled Alabama's fast tempo, holding the Tide to 0.94 in the first half, and just over 1.0 for the game. Many of Alabama's outside shots were contested, rushed, or both. Alabama ran good actions offensively, but Auburn had a hand in the shooter's face constantly, made catches tough, and slowed Alabama's tempo down, which forced the Tide to take pressured and difficult shots at the end of the shot clock, the antithesis of how Alabama has been able to thus far. While Alabama got into the paint well, some untimely misses prevented the Tide from making the run it needed to take back the lead. Alabama shot just 12 of 28 on layup attempts, unable to get enough when driving through contact to offset its poor three-point shooting. The Tide finished going just 5 of 25 from three-point range and shot 37.3% from the field, a lethal cold shooting patch that cost it against the best team in the country. Auburn's defense did its part along with some untimely misses. Mark Sears finished with 18 points and was in attack mode early. He made good reads, but came up empty on far too many trips, going 2 of 11 from deep. Comparatively, Auburn hit its deep shots, connected on 40% of its threes, and showed off its depth of scoring, while Alabama didn't get the typical boost it usually does from its reserves. The Tigers' bench outscored Alabama by 10 and had 3 players in double figures off the bench. Tigers limit mistakes. Saturday's game felt more like a chess match at times. Alabama answered Oates' call to limit turnovers and prevent Auburn from getting easy looks on the glass. The Tide had just 7 giveaways, and the Tigers only turned those into 3 points. Alabama also out-rebounded Auburn 49-40. When Alabama isn't shooting the ball well, it's been able to generate impact plays and get a boost either on the defensive end or offensive glass. But Auburn was able to suppress enough of those mistakes that normally ignite the Tide to stay ahead. Auburn had just 4 turnovers. Alabama did about as much as it could, generating 7 points off of the giveaways, 2 of which came on a 10-0 run where Alabama was first to miss and hit a rare few threes. But the Tide wasn't able to make nearly enough high-impact defensive plays or get the Tigers uncomfortable in possession. Auburn also turned its measly 7 offensive rebounds into 8 second-chance points, making the most of any window Alabama gave it. Though the Tide grabbed 14 boards, it only churned out 9 second-chance points, not nearly enough for a team that won the paint battle overall. Alabama's missed layups, a few Auburn timely blocks, and a strong, determined Tigers defense prevented Alabama from producing enough in the second-chance category. Alabama especially wasn't able to fire off kick-out threes off its miss, which the Tide has hit with lethal efficiency in games where it gets a lot of offensive rebounds. Alabama wins battles the paint, but loses the war. Auburn did a good job shutting off Alabama's access to open threes, which helped contribute to the Tide's wayward shooting. Alabama was still good in possession against the Tigers' defense, avoiding turnovers and funneling the ball into the paint to find answers. Alabama finished the first half with 16 of its 33 points in the paint. Auburn at times appeared to give Alabama the look, focusing on defending the 3 and not wanting to be overly aggressive early defensively and get into foul trouble. Tigers forward Johnny Broome was always going to get his points, and he finished the game with 19 points and 14 rebounds. However, Alabama was able to defend Broome one-on-one well during stretches defensively. Mohamed Diabate played lively defense against Broome the first chance he got after subbing in. Diabate continued that outstanding effort offensively, becoming Alabama's best answer at times, and finishing with 8 points, 7 rebounds, and a pair of blocks. After a lackluster start, Clifford Amory's effort in the lane also improved, and he finished with 8 points and 12 rebounds. Grant Nelson tied Amory's mark and had 12 points. Alabama's paint scoring became the main source of offense, which might come as a surprise given Auburn ranks as the number 2 team in the country in block percentage. LeBaron Philin had a few angry buckets on drives to the rim and had 10 points. Alabama ended up with 38 points in the paint. The Tigers managed 16 blocks on Saturday. However, Alabama's consistently lackluster shooting couldn't balance that paint production. Auburn, meanwhile, wasn't cut off completely in the lane and scored 26 paint points, enough to help go on necessary runs and pull away. Broome was also still able to impact the game as a playmaker despite Amory and Diabate's best efforts to defend him one-on-one. Auburn's leading assist man had 6 Saturday, including 5 that lead to made Tigers threes. Up next, Alabama will go back on the road for its next contest. The Tide will face number 21 Missouri at 8 p.m. Wednesday inside Mizzou Arena. The game will be televised on SEC Network. The Tigers beat/lost to Georgia on Saturday in their most recent game. The three-pointer. Takeaways from number 2 Alabama's loss to number 1 Auburn.